So, the rumor mill is churning, and it's been churning for a while now, but the picture is starting to get a little bit clearer. The Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever they end up calling it, is one of the most anticipated pieces of tech on the horizon. We've heard whispers about specs, potential launch titles, and new features, but one of the most fundamental questions, one that really defines its place in the world, is its size. How big will this thing actually be? Today, we're diving deep into that very question. We've got the latest credible rumors on its dimensions, and we're going to put it into perspective. This isn't just about numbers on a spec sheet. We're going to visually stack up the rumored Switch 2 against the entire spectrum of modern gaming hardware. That means we'll be looking at it next to its predecessor, the beloved Switch OLED, and its direct competitor in the high-end handheld space, the Steam Deck. But we're not stopping there. To truly understand its place, we also have to see how it compares to the titans of the living room, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. It's a classic tale of portability versus power, and size is at the very heart of that story. By the end of this, you'll have a really solid idea of how the Switch 2 physically fits into the current gaming landscape. Is it a minor evolution in form factor, or a more significant shift? Will it still be the king of grab-and-go gaming, or is it creeping into a new size class? We'll explore all of that. We're putting everything on the table, literally, to see where Nintendo's next big thing lands. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's start with the star of the show, the rumored Nintendo Switch 2. Based on the most reliable leaks and whispers from accessory manufacturers, who often get these dimensions early, we're looking at a device that is noticeably larger than the original Switch. The current consensus points to an 8-inch screen, which is a significant jump from the 6.2-inch display on the original and the 7-inch screen on the OLED model. An 8-inch screen doesn't just mean a better viewing experience, it dictates the entire footprint of the device. It's the anchor around which everything else is built. This increased size suggests a few things. First, a bigger chassis allows for more robust internal components. This could mean a more powerful chipset, which we're all hoping for, and potentially a more sophisticated cooling system to manage the heat from that new silicon. A bigger battery is also a very likely and very welcome consequence. Nintendo knows that battery life was a key talking point for the original Switch, so building a successor with more stamina is almost certainly a top priority. The form factor itself, however, seems to be an evolution, not a revolution. We're still expecting detachable Joy-Con-style controllers, which has been a hallmark of the Switch's identity. So, when you place it in the handheld category, it's pushing the upper limits of what many would consider portable. It's not quite entering the territory of the Steam Deck, which we'll get to, but it's definitely a step up in size from what we're used to from Nintendo. This positions the Switch 2 as a more premium, substantial-feeling device. It's an interesting move. They're leaning into the hybrid nature of the console, making the handheld experience more immersive with that larger screen, while still maintaining the core flexibility that made the first Switch a phenomenon. It's a delicate balancing act. Now, let's bring in its older sibling, the Nintendo Switch OLED. For a lot of people, this is the current gold standard for the Switch experience, so it's the most important point of comparison. When you place the two side by side, even in concept, the lineage is obvious. But the differences, while subtle, are significant. The Switch OLED has a 7-inch screen, and the Switch 2 is moving up to 8 inches. That 1-inch diagonal difference is more impactful than it sounds, creating a device that is tangibly wider and taller. The overall design philosophy seems to be consistent. You still have the tablet-like main body with controllers that slide onto the sides. But the rumored Switch 2 is expected to use a new magnetic attachment system for its Joy-Cons instead of the physical rail system. This could lead to a slightly sleeker profile, but the overall volume of the device is undeniably larger. Think of it like the jump from a standard iPhone to a Pro Max model. It's familiar, but it's also just more. The bezels might be slightly slimmer on the new model, but the 8-inch screen still commands a larger physical presence. This size increase has a direct impact on ergonomics and portability. The Switch OLED already feels like a substantial device in your hands, but it still fits comfortably in most backpacks and some larger pockets. The Switch 2, with its larger dimensions, will be less pocketable and will feel more like a dedicated tablet. It crosses a threshold where it becomes something you intentionally pack, rather than something you might casually throw in your bag. This is a key trade-off, a more immersive screen and potentially better performance in exchange for a slight hit to that effortless, on-the-go convenience that defined the original. Okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the Steam Deck. When Valve entered the handheld space, they did not prioritize svelteness. The Steam Deck is a beast of a machine, and for good reason. It's a full-fledged PC crammed into a portable form factor, and that requires space for powerful components, a serious cooling solution, and a massive battery. When you put the rumored Switch 2 next to the Steam Deck, the size difference is immediately apparent. The Switch 2, even at its larger size, looks sleek and trim by comparison. The Steam Deck is significantly thicker, wider, and heavier. It's a device you hold with two hands, and you feel its weight over longer play sessions. Its built-in grips are substantial, and the whole unit is designed for a very specific, dedicated kind of handheld gaming. Portability with the Steam Deck is a deliberate act. You need a dedicated case, and it takes up a serious amount of real estate in a backpack. It's not something you're going to whip out while standing in line at a coffee shop. It's more of a sit on the couch while someone else is using the TV, or a long flight type of portable. This is where Nintendo's design philosophy really shines through, and where the Switch 2's size makes a lot of sense. Nintendo is still clearly prioritizing the Switch aspect of the console. The Switch 2 aims to be a comfortable handheld that you can genuinely take anywhere, while the Steam Deck is more of a portable home console. The Switch 2 is big enough for a great screen, but small enough to not be a burden. It's trying to hit that perfect sweet spot that the original nailed, just scaled up slightly for a new generation. It's a clear strategic choice to not compete with the Steam Deck on raw power or size, but on convenience and design elegance. Now we have to address the monoliths. Let's start with the PlayStation 5. Putting the rumored Nintendo Switch 2 next to a PS5 is, frankly, comical. It's like parking a motorcycle next to a semi-truck. The PlayStation 5 is an absolute unit, a towering piece of hardware designed to be a permanent fixture in your entertainment center. It is unapologetically huge, a decision Sony made to accommodate a massive, quiet cooling system and its powerful internal hardware. There is zero ambiguity here. The PS5 is a home console, and a very large one at that. The comparison isn't about which one is better, but about illustrating the completely different design goals and use cases. The PS5 is built to push cutting-edge 4K graphics to your big screen TV. Its size is a direct consequence of the power required to do that. The Switch 2, on the other hand, is built around the concept of freedom. The freedom to play on that same TV, but also the freedom to pick it up and walk away, continuing your game seamlessly in your hands. The entire volume of the Switch 2 is probably less than just the stand for the PS5. This stark contrast really puts the hybrid nature of the Switch 2 into perspective. It's a device that has to live in two worlds. It needs to be small and light enough for handheld play, but powerful enough to output a respectable image to a television. The PS5 doesn't have that problem. It has one job, and its entire design is optimized for it. Seeing them together reinforces that the Switch 2 isn't trying to be a PS5 killer. It's playing a completely different game, one defined by versatility rather than sheer horsepower, and its compact size is the ultimate proof of that. And for our final comparison, we have the other giant of the console world, the Xbox Series X. Much like the PS5, the Series X is a large, powerful machine designed for the living room. However, it takes a very different design approach. Where the PS5 is a flamboyant, winged tower, the Series X is a dense, minimalist black rectangle. It's more of a mini-fridge than a skyscraper, but don't let its simple shape fool you. it is still a very large and heavy piece of kit. Placing the rumored Switch 2 next to it yields a similar result as the PS5 comparison. The Xbox Series X is all about efficient, concentrated power. Its vertical, monolithic design is essentially a giant wind tunnel, pulling cool air over its components to deliver a top-tier, quiet gaming experience. Again, its size is a function of its purpose. It's made to sit under your TV and stay there. The Switch 2, designed to be held and carried, operates on a completely different set of principles. The power per cubic inch might be impressive on the Switch 2, but the total raw power and thermal headroom of the Series X are in another league entirely. Ultimately, both the Xbox Series X and the PS5 represent the peak of traditional stationary console gaming. They are the benchmarks for performance. The Nintendo Switch 2, by virtue of its size and hybrid nature, carves out its own unique space. It's not trying to compete with these boxes on their terms. Instead, it offers a proposition that they simply can't match high-quality gaming that isn't tethered to a single screen. Seeing how small it is next to the Series X just hammers that point home. It's a choice between maximum power in one place or incredible flexibility everywhere else. So after lining them all up, where does the rumored Nintendo Switch 2 actually fit in? It's clear that Nintendo is carefully navigating the space it created. The Switch 2 is shaping up to be a confident step up in size from its predecessor, firmly positioning itself as a premium handheld with a bigger, more immersive screen. It's a direct response to the desire for a more substantial handheld experience, bringing it closer in screen size to devices like the Steam Deck, but without sacrificing the slim, portable-first design philosophy that made the original so successful. It remains a device you can take anywhere, which is a stark contrast to the living room-bound giants. Compared to the true handheld PCs like the Steam Deck, the Switch 2 remains significantly more portable and elegant. And when you place it next to the monolithic PS5 and Xbox Series X, it's in a completely different category. It's not about competing on raw power. It's about offering a unique proposition of flexibility. The Switch 2 isn't just a handheld, and it isn't just a home console. Its size is the physical manifestation of that hybrid identity, carefully calculated to be big enough for immersive play but small enough to remain truly portable. It's an evolution, not a revolution, and it seems to be hitting a very deliberate, very smart sweet spot in the market. Ultimately, the perfect size is subjective and comes down to how you play. Do you value the absolute peak performance and graphical fidelity that only a large home console can provide? Or do you prefer the grab-and-go convenience of a dedicated handheld? Or, like many, do you want something that expertly walks the line between both? The Switch 2 is Nintendo's latest answer to that question. I'm curious to hear what you all think. Down in the comments, let me know. What's your ideal console size? Are you team portable, team home console, or team hybrid?